All right.
When we catch ourselves thinking negative thoughts, how can we train ourselves to change that without being too hard on ourselves? Sort of being there for ourselves.
Yeah, without abandoning or rejecting ourselves.
Without abandoning or rejecting ourselves in the moment. Yeah, that's a good question. There's a concept known as the good enough mother that for whatever reason in our contemporary society we usually never feel like we had. Nothing against mothers. All mothers try their best and love their children. But a big part of the practice is to become our own good enough mother. And while on the one hand our practice is all about learning to not be self-centered, not make this story all about me, at the same time I can only love others as much as I love myself. So the practice is really going in every direction. It's loving kindness and compassion towards oneself so that we can have loving kindness and compassion for others, and vice versa.
May I add?
Please.
Yeah. So from the point of view of the awakened ones, the thoughts and feelings and sensations that occupy our mind are like clothing, like a shirt or a t-shirt and so on. So by throwing off the clothes, the shirt, the t-shirt and so on, you're not abandoning the core of your being, which is naked. So from the point of view of Dharma, the core of your being is naked. It isn't the thoughts, it isn't the feelings, and it isn't the sensations that are arising in your day. Those are clothes. So changing your clothes from a toga to a yoga, from a robe to a pair of pants, doesn't imply abandoning yourself in any way. What it does imply is that I get to choose what my thoughts and feelings and sensations are, as much as just taking what arises naturally, but is conditioned by everything else. They're also put on you. So you get the freedom to decide what clothes you're going to put on and what feelings you're going to put on. But what the world sees are all these clothes that are being worn. But in essence, we're all the same naked mind, capital M, right? And so in that sense, you haven't abandoned yourself. You've abandoned the things you've associated and identified with yourself because you thought your shirt was who you were.
This is where
The purpose of mantra in establishing the link with the deity? Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question. Well, there's a number of different functions. One, like Doug Sensei alluded to earlier, Tantric practice is very smart and very practical in that it occupies all of our senses. As the saying goes, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Well, so are idle minds and idle ears and idle eyes. So the practice, we visualize, we say the mantra to occupy our speech. We use the beads to occupy our hands. We visualize with our minds and our eyes, and then we say the mantra to occupy our speaking in our ears. And in addition to that, so we're occupying all of our senses, having a full sensory experience. It's kind of like an IMAX theater, like you're creating your own IMAX theater with that practice. And then in addition to that, then the seed syllables, as I'm sure you know, are ancient and do have some power to release hormones in the body. So they're activating our glands to function more healthfully in a way that our contemporary conditioning, societal conditioning, doesn't really include that.
Yeah. And insofar as our emotions ride on our speech, like if the gentleman behind you bothers you, your mind tends to go, well, Joe is, like this, or Joe's like that. So the habitual reaction to hurt, the speech can carry the emotion. So if you've got a mantra going, right, if you have a mantra going, it's harder for that voice to come in. You go, okay, compassion for Joe, or kindness for Joe, or, Joe, intelligence for Joe, or whatever mantra you're using, then that habitual mind has a harder time finding the groove.
Awareness,
compassion, wisdom, strength, abundance,
abundance,
and joy. we've added a few more as we've gone along. My teacher, Namjo Rinpoche, and Catherine's teacher, would do awareness, compassion, wisdom. That was in the 70s. In the 80s, we added strength. In the 90s, we're adding abundance. And in the 2000 and, where are we, 10, 20s? It's like, joy! So, just a quick word on the generosity thing. The idea of generosity from the point of view of the Buddhist order is that by giving people the opportunity to give, they were gathering merit. And I think the easiest way to wrap your head around this one is to think that the parent gives and the child receives. So insofar as you're in a giving position, you're taking on the responsibility of the adult position. And in the receiving, in a sense, you take on the child role that someone's going to take care of you. So by giving people the opportunity to give, we're actually promoting the adult or the maturity of the strength of your being, rather than more the child role of the receiving. So that's another way of looking at Dana.
Yeah, developing strength and generating merit. Something we're always doing. Two things we're always doing.